Welcome to the video, guys. Once again, we are covering Remainers who have not given up the ghost in relation to stopping Brexit, because in their demented sense of reality, they actually think they have some power and can actually force the government to stop it, like they did during the 2017 to 2019 Parliament when they betrayed the people of this country. Fortunately, they were all stupid enough to agree to an election they knew they would lose, which has allowed Brexit to actually be delivered, sort of course, because we are in the Brexit transition period as we speak, which is what we're going to be talking about here, along with the fact that Brexit is actually going to be beneficial to everybody in this country to the tune of at least a few grand. The Express are reporting on Remainers Ian Blackford and Sir Ed Davey begging Michel Barnier to delay Brexit, thinking of course he has some power in that matter, which we all know that he doesn't, because it's on Boris Johnson to extend the transition period, since he made December the 31st, 2020, the day we fully leave the EU with or without a deal. This is enshrined in law. But it headlines, Save Us Michel. Shameless Remainers launch shock Brexit plot. Barnier urged to act. That's just hilarious. Remainers have launched a shock Brexit plot and have urged Michel Barnier to act to wreck Britain's exit from the EU, which obviously we know he can't. Both the SNP leader at Westminster, Ian Blackford, and the acting Liberal Democrat leader, Sir Ed Davey, have signed a letter to the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, to support a Brexit delay. They told Mr Barnier there is significant opposition to the UK government's refusal to consider extending the timetable for talks, which the only significant opposition is obviously from the Remoaners themselves. The opposition is not from the country, they just want Brexit to be done so we can move on with our lives as an independent state. They warned such a move to allow Brexit talks to take place when the efforts of national governments and the European Union will not be engaged solely with dealing with the dreadful coronavirus epidemic, which may well be coming to an end by the looks of it. So guess what? They are desperately trying now to use it for as long as they possibly can. We have already seen it multiple times over the last few weeks and months, determined to use coronavirus in order to stop Brexit, which obviously cannot happen, and to be honest with you, I don't even think the weak Tory government is going to do something so stupid as that. I could be wrong, but I would definitely be surprised if they did. We already know we've quit the European Union and talks are taking place to determine a future trading relationship. That's not important. The transition period due to expire at the end of the year. Remainers fear the UK may be forced into a no-deal scenario if an agreement cannot be reached, which is actually a good thing and looks very possible right now. The letter to Mr Barnier has also been signed by Plaid Cymru MP Liz Saville-Roberts, Green MP Caroline Lucas, Stephen Farry MP from the Alliance Party, as well as fellow Northern Ireland MP Colin Eastwood of the Social Democratic and Labour Party. So a bunch of Remainer parties with absolutely no power that nobody should be listening to. They are just begging their EU masters to help them because they finally realise that they have absolutely zero power in the United Kingdom, as it should be. All of these parties are against the people of this country and therefore do not even deserve the positions that they hold, in my opinion. They contacted Mr Barnier to highlight significant opposition to the UK government's extreme position amongst the business community, the general public and elected representatives. No, that is not the truth. It is just literally the few Remoaners left out there who cannot take it that they have lost every vote and poll that really matters consecutively and are now trying any desperate trick they can to stop what the people of this country voted for. The opposition MPs noted the Scottish and Welsh governments both backed an extension of the transition period, along with the majority of political parties in the Northern Ireland executive. Once again, none of that matters. The referendum result was for the entire UK. We said we're leaving. That is the end of it. Boris Johnson has enacted it. We leave at the end of this year. Suck it up, you snivelling shit weasels. It ain't going to happen. The MP said a consensus is taking shape and we hope the UK government will soon recognise reality. Are you having a laugh? It's you guys that need to recognise reality. 17.4 million people spoke in 2016. That has to be honoured. 2017 election, the Tories won even if it was the incompetent Maybot, who was technically a Remainer, trying to sell us Brexit in name only. That ended up getting her kicked to the curb. We now have Boris Johnson, who won an overwhelming majority on the basis of taking us out of the European Union this year. No ifs or buts about it. The only people, it seems, who are not connected with reality is these Remoaning MPs like Ian Blackford, and of course the Green Party, Lib Dems, and the rest of the Remoaning spunk trumpets. It is now in all our common interest to agree and secure an extension to the transition period. This will enable these detailed and defining negotiations to be conducted at a time when we hope the efforts of national governments and the European Union will not be engaged solely with dealing with the dreadful coronavirus epidemic. Mr. Blackford said they had written to Mr. Barnier because time is running out until we hit the hard Brexit deadline, which has got this snivelling shitweasel laying cable in his trousers as we speak. He said it is vital that the Tory government does the only responsible thing and accepts a 2-year extension to the transition period. No, the only responsible thing would be to take us out of the EU right now. Never mind any of this waiting around until December. We should have just left instantly as soon as Boris Johnson won the election. It didn't turn out that way, so the responsible thing is to stick to the law, which is to leave at the end of the year. Ian Blackford, I feel, knows the jig is up and there is nothing he can do. So he is trying every little desperate trick in the book that he can to stop Brexit because obviously he wants his own independence that keeps him in the EU. Us leaving the EU makes Scotland ever joining it in future almost impossible. Their deficit is too high, and of course the fact that they don't have their own currency or central bank means joining the EU is literally, like I said, almost impossible. We all know about their claims of crashing out during this crisis would be a double hammer blow. No, it wouldn't. Avoiding the EU bailouts will be the best thing that could happen to us, which it seems has actually been reported here also by the Express. Brexit delivered on time will give every Briton £5,750, says John Longworth. Extending the transition period with the EU will land Britain with a bill of at least $400 billion, a new think tank report has revealed. Add that to the $300 billion bailouts that our government has been putting because of the situation that's going on now. That is a hell of a lot of money. We certainly don't want to be sending $400 billion over to the EU, ever. We don't want to send the $39 billion that we're supposed to pay as part of the withdrawal agreement, let alone 10 times that figure. And maybe the reason why Ian Blackford is begging Michel Barnier, because his masters know if we don't stay in the EU, they're going to have to pay the at least $400 billion they would have took from us if we were still in it. The research by the Centre for Brexit Policy has warned that delaying a full Brexit before the end of the year would be an act of madness. According to its analysis, the cost of the delay would be at least 10 times higher than the controversial divorce bill in the withdrawal agreement, which I think you will agree is completely insane and something that cannot happen. The CBP findings have shown that if attempts to make the transition period permanent succeed, then it could cost Britain as much as $4.6 trillion and torpedo effects to recover from the coronavirus. Which, obviously, that figure there should definitely send alarm bells ringing in every person's ears in this country. The findings have come as Remainers have launched a new push to keep Britain in the EU, as we've just been looking at. However, research by the CBP has proven that remaining under EU rules will be extremely costly to Britain. The think tank has found that a combination of at least 5 massive actual or potential bills would fall on the UK taxpayer if Minister bows to growing delayer pressure from resurgent Remainer forces. The report notes that an extension means the UK will continue payment of the UK contribution of £11 billion a year net to the EU budget on top of a £39 billion divorce bill. In addition, the UK will miss out on lucrative free trade agreements from beyond the confines of the 27-member EU bloc, with talks already underway with the USA, Australia and New Zealand. Extending the transition period also means that Britain will have to keep adopting EU regulations, meaning it cannot make savings by cutting red tape. While the transition period continues, the UK will also be forced to accept free movement, meaning that the welfare bill for unskilled labour will continue to mount. There will also be potential liabilities for bailing out a bankrupt Eurozone and likely extra cash demands from Brussels by becoming entrapped in the new EU budget cycle that begins on January the 1st next year. The cost of these 5 areas will be at least £400 billion according to the CBP, but could go as much as 4.6 trillion if transition becomes the permanent position of the UK, which can obviously never happen, especially not with that eye-watering amount of money, highlighting the dangers posed by extending the Brexit transition period and Britain's continued effective membership of the EU. Former Cabinet Minister Owen Paterson warned, Britain is like a man standing by an unexploded bomb. The bomb is ticking louder and louder. The prudent step is not to fiddle with it. The prudent step is to retire to a safe distance, which is obviously something I have said. The EU is about to become an unmitigated shit show, in my opinion. We certainly don't want to be anywhere near that. But I'm not going to bother reading any more of that, you get the point. The Remainers here are literally trying to force us into paying trillions of pounds, possibly. This cannot be allowed. Luckily for us, and maybe unluckily for them, Michel Barnier actually can't do anything. He cannot force us to accept an extension, the same as Parliament can no longer do, which obviously you will remember they did to Boris Johnson last year. The times of that nonsense happening are long gone, thankfully. But I think this article proves we definitely need to get out of the EU, and sharpish. We definitely don't want to be paying 400 billion to them, and certainly not the 4.6 trillion that it could possibly be. Obviously, these are just projections, so they could well be wrong, but we know what the EU is like. It's a bottomless pit of our money. Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot, and I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.